MacOS Mojave is what they're calling this. So first you had the iPhone 10 that everybody mispronounces as the iPhone X because they see the X. Now everyone's going to see the letters here and say Mojave, Mojave. Triggered me enough when people said iPhone 10. Now they're going to say that. So I find it very interesting that macOS actually got a dark mode before iOS, because in Mojave it actually has a dark mode for pretty much the entire interface, which I think is really, really cool. I'll probably be using that most of the time. Like iMovie is already in dark by default, which is pretty cool. But I guess iOS technically has the smart invert on the colors, but overall it doesn't have a full official dark mode yet, which people have been asking specifically for a dark mode in iOS, so it's just interesting they decided to go with macOS first. Now, one feature on the desktop I think is really cool, and there's actually several features on the desktop I think are really cool. But one in particular related to the background picture is the background picture when using one of the default background pictures that comes with the operating system. It actually changes based on the time of day. You'll see, like, in the morning, you can see a sunrise, at sunset, obviously. At night, it's dark, and then the lights on the patterns on the ground change throughout the day. So I think that's a really, really cool addition, and it will definitely make me go back to using the built-in wallpapers a bit more. Now, another desktop feature that I was saying I really liked was the ability to stack your clutter on your desktop together. I always have a lot of clutter on my desktop because that just what's happening when trying to make a lot of YouTube videos really, really fast, and you have dragging and dropping things everywhere, and you end up with a bunch of crap just sitting on your desktop. And now you can basically just press a button and have it all slide over and be smartly stacked together in different stacks based on different things of your choosing to organize them by. And you can open up each stack individually and pull things out of it and close the stack back up. An overall very useful feature for keeping stuff organized. A few updates have also been made to the Finder, which I think is absolutely necessary because Finder right now is kind of outdated, to be absolutely honest. But they've added lots of previews in Finder, which basically, if you don't know what that means, they're just little bitty pictures in Finder that show you what each file is, so you don't have to just look for the name. You could better see, just see what the file is. And there's also some little quick actions in the bottom right-hand corner for a lot of different things that say a picture. You can rotate the picture and stuff like that by clicking a single button. Doesn't seem like it'd be all that useful, but I mean, it's there anyways. Another thing they spent quite a long time talking about that I didn't really think was that important was that you can now use the markup tools on preview without having to actually open up the file. So I mean, it's a thing, but I don't really care. Now here is where it gets really interesting in what I really, really like, and that is screenshots. With the YouTube content and stuff, I end up having to take a heck of a lot of screenshots. So it's really awesome that they're improving the screenshot system here. Basically, there's a whole new screenshot, like little menu thingy that'll pop up near the bottom of the screen-ish, kind of. Don't exactly know how that works. But basically, then you can click from that bar whether you want to do a screenshot of a section of the screen or the whole screen. And also, these screen recording buttons are part of that menu now. So you no longer have to go into QuickTime like you used to have to do. Every time I want to take a screen recording now, I have to go into QuickTime to do that. Now it's part of the screenshot menu, which makes a heck of a lot more sense. And then after you've taken a screenshot, it's just like in iOS 11 now, where it goes down into the corner of the screen and you can mark it up, change it, share it, all that stuff directly, immediately, instead of having to go find it in Finder. So, huge improvement. Keep improving stuff, Apple. There's also this really interesting and kind of out there concept that they've come up with called continuancy camera or something like that. Now, basically how this works is you can, from a document or a file or something on your computer that you're working on, just click to take photo, and it'll automatically pop up immediately a camera on your iPhone, and you can take the picture on your phone, and it immediately shows up on your computer. That is a really cool and kind of out there concept that I'd be really interested to see where it goes. It seems like one of those things that might not be all that practical. A lot of the continuancy stuff that we have thus far doesn't work very well. Like the Apple Watch to unlock the MacBook, that's supposed to work every time. it only works about 10% of the time for me. It rarely ever actually works. So we'll see if this actually works the way it's supposed to. It'd be a really cool feature if it does, just that stuff never seems to work the way it's supposed to. They're also introducing the 32-person group FaceTime call on the Mac as well. I already talked about that in my iOS video. You can go check that out if you haven't already. There's also 4 iOS apps that are getting macOS versions as part of their phase 1 of their plan to bring some iOS apps over to Mac, or make it easy for iOS apps to be brought over to Mac. They made it very clear they are not planning on merging macOS and iOS anytime soon. They're keeping them completely separate systems, completely separate things, but they do want it to be easier to port apps in between, and that's what they've been trying to do, is change a lot of the coding basic stuff that I don't really understand, in order to make it easier for apps to be ported back and forth between iOS devices and macOS devices. And apparently phase 1 of this whole thing is to port the News app, Stocks app, Home app, and Voice Memo to macOS. Of course, they will have their own special versions to go along with the big screen. And overall, they don't look too shabby. They look pretty good on Mac, to be honest. So I'm interested to see what phase 2 is of this whole plan. And now, just like the iOS App Store got a huge overhaul last year, it's time for the Mac App Store to get that overhaul. They've replaced the options on the top with bars on the side, a sidebar, which I think is a much better concept and will work much better practically. And you've got something similar going on to iOS with like a Games tab and an Apps tab and different things like that. It's very similar to iOS's App Store, except kind of made to work well on the Mac, which I think it really needed that refresh. The Mac App Store feels very ignored, we'll say that. It doesn't really feel old. It still feels modern, but it feels very ignored when I'm on it, and hopefully this will help bring some more attention to it. And they said they've been working closely with a lot of companies to try and bring more apps to the Mac App Store, because it's kind of starved of apps right now. So hopefully they can manage to do that. And finally, they did spend quite a while talking about security. Apparently they're doing a lot more advanced encryption stuff on a lot of different things. I know I was very specific there. You can look at the keynote. They talked more specifically on exactly what they're doing. But basically, stuff's going to be more encrypted and more safe. So, thumbs up, I suppose. And that's about it. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about macOS Mojave and how you think people are going to mispronounce it. Because I'm sure I will at some point, and it'll just trigger myself, and I'll get triggered every time I hear someone mispronounce it. And anyways, leave a like on this video. As always, if you want to see more content similar to this in the future, subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss any content. And see you guys later. Bye-bye.